Good. So welcome to Lesson 7. Back in Lesson 4, we learned about the power of compound interest with an illustration you'll probably remember from Jack and Blake. Do you guys remember Jack and Blake? How I think it was Jack that was the first one, and he started saving at around 20, 21 years old, a certain amount. He stopped after 10 years or however long it was, and then just let compound interest take over. Well, then his buddy, at the end of that time, decided he better start. He started and discovered that even though he contributed the same amount, he never caught up, even though his buddy stopped.
He contributed way, way more because he kept contributing from age 30 or whatever it was on until retirement. And he never caught up, even though he contributed, 6 times more.
And so the point is time. And that's important for us to go through the baby steps 1 through 3 to get that out of the way quickly so that we can start. Because some of you are like, well, like Dave said, that was really good if I could have started earlier, but I'm a little bit late. This is what I want to encourage you with tonight. It's never too late to start. You might not make as much progress as someone who is 20 years younger than you, but don't allow hopelessness to prevail. Some of you are in baby step 1 through 3. You're going to be in baby step 1 through 3 maybe for a couple of years. This lesson tonight is super important because this is part of the why you're doing baby step 1 through 3. So don't check out during this one. You want to grab this and say, this is where I'm headed. And then remember that you've got this membership. Say 6, 8 months from now, you want to go back through this and learn it again or just review. You can go back and watch this again. And this may be one that you want to do that with.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of these that we're covering a lot, and a lot of us aren't going to be right here, right now. But we're trying to give you a big picture. This is the light at the end of the tunnel. Once you get through baby step 2 and 3, those are our long strides. We're working for potentially a year or 2 years. Hopefully not too much longer than that. But we're staying gazelle intense through all that so that we can get to baby step 4, so we can get money and start getting it in there, so that way we can strive to be building that compound interest.
Yeah. So one of the things that's going to happen if you're in baby step 1 through 3, everything in you is going to say, I want to do this step now. But you need the cash flow to do baby step 1 through 3. So Dave's recommendation, which he'll talk about, is everything for your investment stops temporarily until you're out of debt. Because if you've got the cash flow, you have the tool to get rid of the debt. And then as soon as you get done with the debt, it's amazing how quick you will catch up, even though you lost those couple of years' time. Because imagine if you took all that you're investing, if some of you are, and put it on your debt, how much faster would that debt be gone? So consider that as we're going through. But the important thing is that we don't skip baby steps 1 through 3. They're baby steps 1 through 3 because they're first, second, and third. And then we do 4, which is important.
So it's one of those that we need to get the debt out of the way. We dug this hole, and our paycheck's our shovel. If we're cutting chunks of the shovel off to save for later, we can't fill the hole back in to get to the pile of what we're saving.
That's good. That's a good picture. And so there's one key component to this that I think is super important. Maybe some of you have done this, maybe some of you haven't. We've talked about this whole idea of fund money. So fund money is a line item in your budget. It's just a little bit of spending cash to keep you from going backwards. So Sean, how has having a little bit of fund money helped you and Artie through your process?
You have to, because you get so bogged down by I'm just trapped in, especially the first few months, you feel trapped by the budget. Well, the budget's permission to spend, so let's change that mindset right away. You feel so trapped down by it though. But we started, it was $10 a piece. But that money didn't have a name. I could go and buy a soda at the gas station if I wanted to. I could save it up for a couple months and, I feel like grabbing, fast food before I come to church on Wednesday night. That was what that money was for. It wasn't tied down to anything else. And I didn't have to feel bad that $10 wasn't going towards debt that month, because if I didn't do that, then I was going to bust the budget somewhere else, because lo and behold, I was probably going to grab that soda no matter what at the gas station.
Yeah. So that fund money is huge. It's a big deal. And it's whatever you choose it to be. The thing that you got to remember is the bigger your fund money category, the less is going to debt. So the key is you don't want it to be so big that you're not making any progress, but you want it to be just enough to where you don't blow your budget in other places, which is important. So that's cool.
It's one of those things that since we've progressed through the steps and where we're at now, it's considerably more than what it used to be. But it's still there. It's still something. Artie's way better at saving it up for bigger purchases than I am. I tend to spend most of mine every month. She's the saver, I'm the spender. So she gets to buy bigger items with hers than I do. But it's still there even now that we're done with baby step 2 and 3.
Yeah, so it's just a little breathing room. So that's just a tip we wanted to give with you today. So for most of us, investing can feel really intimidating. And in this lesson, Dave is going to help us to understand the basics of investing and how to start investing the right way, again, on baby step 4. So as we get ready to start the video, go ahead and open up your outlines there. We're going to fill in those blanks as we go through. And I want you to think about this, because some of you are going to hear these and think I'm speaking a foreign language. What do the terms 401k and Roth IRA mean to you? And as you're thinking about that, go ahead and turn your attention to the screen, and we're going to watch our video tonight. All right. So lots of stuff in there. Remember that you can always review that. Is that a proper way of saying it? Re-review.
Re-review, yeah.
Re-review.
Rewatch.
You could review it anyway. So, but the important thing to remember there is that if there are things that didn't stick or you want to go back through, you can go back and watch that at home. It's really important to do that. Lots of information, and everybody's situation could look a little bit different. So one of the things I just really want to point out is paying attention to if you've got an employer retirement plan, make sure that you know what you're doing with that. Looking back and seeing what you're actually contributing. Is there a match? What kind of a fund is that? Is it a 401k? Is there a 401k Roth variety? And then go ahead and take a look at your situation to see, remember his little slogan that he used, to see where you fit and how much you can put in different places. So you just actually looked up the Roth contribution, because there is a limit on how much you can contribute to a Roth option. So currently for a Roth IRA, the limit is $7,000 a year. Now that's individually, because when you make a Roth account, it's not combined. Even as a married couple, you make them individually. Mm-hmm. So each individual is $7,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So, and if you're over the age of 50, it's $8,000. Mm-hmm. They allow you to catch up if you want to do some later year investing, which is cool. Yeah. So a quick question, and remind me let me know if I'm wrong, because I had this sticking in my mind. So say, for instance, it's a couple, we've got one income, but the other is a stay-at-home parent. That person also qualifies because they are married to a worker. Roth is connected to someone who is receiving an income.
Yeah, it's as far as I'm aware, and I'm not a financial advisor or an expert, but it's worth looking into if you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, and your spouse is bringing in an income. If you file, joint file, then you're both eligible for it, because technically that income is both of your income. It's household income. So that's worth looking into, because that's a caveat there that you want to look at. So obviously lots of stuff going on, but here's the important part that he said at the very end. It doesn't have to be crazy fancy. It just has to be done. And most of the time, we get what's called paralysis of the analysis, and we wind up getting all of this stuff working in our mind, and then we don't actually ever do any of it. And so doing something is better than doing nothing and getting paralyzed by all of the stuff. So what he was saying is it doesn't have to be overly fancy. But here's the first step, and this is the activity that we're going to do, and it's right there in your pamphlet, is we are going to, and you don't have to share this necessarily with the people around you unless you just want to have conversation, because this is for you, but some of you may have never actually figured out what your contribution could be. What is 15% of your income? Now, this is gross income. So let's go ahead and read the instructions of this real quick. We're going to take, it'll probably only take you a minute or two to do this. So you're going to want to get your smartphone out with your calculator, because it's going to be a real quick equation. But it says, what could your money turn into? So your most powerful wealth building tool is your income until your investments start earning more than you do. That's why you want to get to baby step 4 as fast as you can. Take your current monthly gross income. So gross income is what you make before taxes are taken out. So this is, and of course, we're going to use broad stroke numbers. You don't have to get super detailed down to the penny, but what do you make before taxes? And so what you're going to do is divide that into your monthly, so that you know how much is 15% of your monthly gross income. And that is the goal once you're in baby step 4 to invest. And that would be if you have multiple incomes for the household,
It's the household
it's
income.
household income.
So
it's-
spouses combine that.
Yes.
So your total year, divide and use your smartphone, divide it by 12 so you know your monthly, and then multiply that amount by 0.15. And that's the goal once you get to baby step 4 of what you are going to start investing. Okay, so go ahead and take just a second to do that. If you're at home, you don't need the worksheet to do this. You can actually go on and just write down on a scratch paper or somewhere and just take the next 30, 45 seconds and calculate what is your monthly 15%. Any questions about that? Did we explain that well? Okay, so what is your monthly 15%?
And just as a little side there, that $7,000 for a Roth IRA divided by 12 is like $580 some a month. Mm-hmm. So for some people, that amount is going to be more than your 15%. Mm-hmm. And now that's times 2 if you're a household spouse, husband and wife. Mm-hmm. So you could contribute $500 a piece or something like that and be, still at your 15% and underneath of that Roth contribution.
Mm-hmm. And so here's the thing. So this is important to listen to because some of you are going to say, well, why can't I contribute more than 15%? Did anybody think that? Why can't we do more than 15%? In most cases, at this step, we're on baby step 4, 5, 6 together. So baby step 4 is this step, right? We're investing. Baby step 5 is, anybody remember? What's baby step 5? Taking care of kids' college. So some of you will have baby step 5, some of you will not. And then that means that baby step 6 is what? You're going to pay off your house early. Mm-hmm. The reason why you do 15% is so that you have enough margin in your cash flow to pay your house off early. Because as soon as you pay your house off early, then you can jack this 15% up wherever you want it so that you can invest quickly. And then because you've got cash flow, because you don't have a mortgage, now it accelerates like crazy. But if you do baby step 7 before you get to baby step 6, your cash flow is smaller. So we're doing this, it's a snowball in the correct way. Does that make sense? That's why we don't want to exceed 15% until the house is paid off. All right, so has everybody figured out your number? All right, nobody, you don't have to yell it out, but does anybody need more time? Everybody got your number? So now what I want you to do is look below. Now, of course, this is not an all-inclusive table, but take a look here at what could happen with your investment. Now, the reason Dave Ramsey always uses the 11%, like he said, it's a wild ride, but since the inception of the stock market, it's been give or take 11% return. So if you're in a long term, that's, whether it's 8, whether it's 12, it doesn't matter, somewhere in that range. So using the 11% as that average, so for instance, say your number is $700 monthly. Give or take, investing for 20 years, that $700 a month turns into $946,000. So you've got almost $750,000 in 20 years.
Yep.
So you add 10 years to that, look what your $700 a month turns into. $1.9 million. Say you started early and you got 40 years in, $700 a month. You're at over $6 million. That's just with slow and steady wins the race. Kind of wild, huh?
Compound interest is really your friend in this case.
So let's bump it up just to 800. Say you're doing 800 instead of 700. By the time you've done it 40 years, you're at almost 6.9. But 20 years, you're at 692. If you're doing $900 a month, you get up to almost 800,000 in 20 years. In 30 years, it's 2.5 million. 40 years, it's 7.7 million. Mm-hmm. So the point is this, slow and steady, you're like, that's just not very much per week or per month. But it makes a big difference. Makes a huge difference. That's really, really powerful. So Sean, what comes to mind for you when you see what your monthly investment could turn into over the course of your career?
It's really crazy. When we sat down and did the calculator, and especially when we got with our advisor, to see what it could be by time our retirement is, it was just like, really? I'd never thought that was something even possible, because we started out, this whole journey was a single income. at like $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
And it was incredible to see what even that could do then. And I have somehow earned raises over that time frame too. So it's one of those that as you earn more money and earn raises, you get to add to that 15% to make that 15% stay the same.
So this is the important part of that we've got to hear. Some of us look at that and you're like, there is no way I can do $700 a month. That's too much. The thing is most of us, and I'm just being candid, most of us have $700 a month in debt payments, which means that when we're out of debt, we have it. And now we can invest it. You see why these baby steps are all so important. This is really a big deal. And so Sean, how do you feel knowing that if your income increases, you'll get to invest even more each month?
It just adds to that compound interest, but I get to add the compound interest. So if my investment keeps going up, that the compound interest can go up even further and use that money even better. And it's all just, I'm paying myself for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it really, it makes all of us, especially Artie, really more secure knowing that is there.
Yeah.
And we've got that going. So that's a big security in our household.
That's cool. For the first couple of years, you're like, it's just not a lot. And then pretty soon you're like, I am really glad that this is in process. So I hope that this is a really helpful thing. We're going to take a couple of minutes and just do some discussion questions. We're almost done. And so appreciate you sticking in. We're going to do this first question. And the question is this. And I just encourage you to get around with just a couple of people and just discuss this. Just the first thing that pops into your mind. Do you feel that you're on track or are you off track to reach your retirement goals? And how has this lesson helped you to feel more confident in your future, especially if you feel like you need to make some changes? So take just a second, turn to a couple people around you, and it's okay if you feel off track. That's the whole idea, is that we're getting some traction. So talk to a few people and say, where do you feel you're at right now? How you doing? So take 45 seconds, minute, something like that, and then we'll come back to question 2. I think we need our 1-minute takeaway music back.
Right?
Do you have it memorized?
Almost.
Jamie, she can sing it for us. So, do you feel like you're on track or off track to reach your retirement goals? I know for me, it felt like it took us forever to get to the spot where we were contributing that. But there was just this liberation when all of a sudden it felt like we were getting tread on our tires instead of spinning out. That's what it felt like when we engaged. It was just liberating.
Yeah, it definitely helped push the gazelle intensity for us to hey, we really need to do this, because like this, we sat down and did this while we were still in the middle of baby step 2, and it was like, wow, if we could push this now, we don't have, it's 2 more years,
Yeah.
So
that's good. So if you're at home, you can discuss these questions as well. Maybe you're by yourself, but if you're with somebody, make sure you discuss that. Let's go ahead and move to question number 2. So we're going to put that up there, and Sean will read that for us.
So which tax advantage plans are available to you today? What's the first step you're going to take to figure out where and how you need to invest?
So every job is a little bit different. So some jobs have a 401k. I know when you're in ministry, I'm actually not able to do a 401k because we're in a different part of the tax code, because we are a not-for-profit business. So I have a 403b. So that's something that happens with ministry, with hospitals, with schools, different things like that, where because it's a nonprofit, it's a different tax category, but it's a very similar program.
There's also for government agencies a 457. So it's the same kind of thing. It's a not-for-profit. So a lot of the school district offers a 403b and a 457 as well. So, but not a 401k. And all these is just different paragraph numbers in the tax law, just specifying what the arrangements are. It's not separate, it's not like a checking account and a savings account different. It's the tax law around how the taxes are charged on these accounts underneath this agreement.
So this whole tax deferred thing is really interesting, because when you contribute through your employer, you're paying taxes on that money after. Mm-hmm. They're contributing it before your paycheck is taxed, which means that at the very end, it's going to be taxed somewhere. And so in this case, it's taxed at the end, which is why the tax-free, which is Roth, is so important, is because when I contribute, I have already paid taxes. It's my after tax. I got my paycheck, then I took money that was already taxed and invested it. And so according to the tax code, money can only be taxed once, which means it's either taxed at the beginning or it's taxed at the end, which means we would rather it be taxed at the beginning, and there's a really important reason why. Because it's a smaller number. Mm-hmm. And so it's not that I don't want to pay taxes, it's that I want to be able to use the money that the Lord has entitled me to steward the way that I feel led to do it. So I would love to be, for instance, I would rather have some of my retirement help to pay for paying off tower, or building a hospital in Africa, or supporting my brother on the mission field, than for it to be taxed in that broad state. So I want to get it, yes, I want it to be taxed, but I want to be able to have the majority of the money that I have saved over the years available to me to use how the Lord would lead me to give it and use it, which is important.
And something that we've been saying all night, a Roth IRA is the most common form of Roth because that's available to anybody, just independently. It's not through your employer or anything like that. But a Roth can apply to a 401k, it can apply to a 403b, it can apply to a 457. So it's all just different options out there that it all falls into. So Roth can cover any of the other tax codes.
Now, not every company offers a Roth 401k, but if you don't ask and don't look, you might not know if they do. So it might be worth you looking into your company's retirement plans, because they might have a Roth option. And if they have a Roth option, that is a great thing because you're already investing anyway. So just make sure you work with a professional to be able to either roll it, because you can't withdraw it or you'll be taxed on it. But you also need to be careful about how you roll it, because if you roll it from one type to another, there will be a tax bill too. Yep. But it could be worth it. So work with one of those SmartVestor pros. All right, question number 3. What comes to mind when you think about the kind of legacy that you want to leave for your kids, for your kids' kids? What would you like to be able to do? And you might not feel like you can do a lot, but what would it matter to you to be able to invest in the next generation because of good decisions today? The Bible says a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So this is a biblical principle. It's kind of a wild thing to think about, right? Your 2 little girls, and one day, should the Lord tarry, you're going to have grandkids.
Yeah, it's a scary thought.
But this would affect them.
Absolutely. And I like the concept, too, that an inheritance might not necessarily mean just financial. Yeah. It could definitely be, you're leaving a legacy of your morality and your faith and everything like that, too. So
even just the simplicity of my kids learning how to steward finances.
Yep.
Because them learning how to do this today means that they won't make the mistakes I made, so that they get a better start when they get going. And that's important to me, because I know the stuff I did that I would rather them not experience that pain.
Right.
And so that's a legacy. So it's not always money. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and go to question number 4. So after watching this lesson, do you believe that investing in mutual funds over a long period of time is the best way to build wealth? It's an interesting question, because sometimes the lie is it can't be that simple. Could it be that simple? Could it be that slow and steady wins the race? So talk about with each other for just a minute how maybe your perspective on that has changed a little bit.
For us, it was really nice. It was just once we got it set up, found a good SmartVestor Pro that, they were taking sheets of paper and drawing stuff out and stick figures and everything to make sure Artie and I knew exactly what we were doing. Yeah. They had the heart of a teacher, and that was the biggest thing. You're paying for a service. Mm-hmm. I don't want to buy something I don't know, and even if I understand it, her account is her account. She needs to understand it because she's paying for it as well. So they took the time and made sure that she understood exactly what we were buying with our basically our fees going in to pay for the accounts and stuff like that, and the management fees. And it was one of those that it once we got it set up, once that initial meeting was there, we once a year have a talk. Hey, do we need to adjust the amount? How are they doing? Should we move into a different fund? It's just a once a year now. It's a set it and forget it.
And
kind
it's
of thing.
automatically deducted. It's just a line item in your budget. It just goes right in there. And so your snowball is going the correct direction now. You're not digging out of a hole. You're actually creating something, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and get ready to close tonight, and we've got Mr. Homework Man over here. We decided he's the homework guy. We're going to take a look at what we need to do this week to kind of apply this lesson to our life. So go ahead and talk about our action steps.
So since school started again, you all get this homework this week, right? So we get to go online using the Ramsey Plus and use their calculator. They have a calculator on there that actually will look at that number. You plug in your 15% that you're making right now, and if you never got another raise over however many years until you're to retirement, what that number could look like in a good 11% mutual fund kind of thing. I think you even get to play with the percentage. Like if you want to say, okay, I'm only going to do an 8% in the stocks, or something like that, or it's a bull market and it's a 20% the whole time, just to see what it would look like.
Well, and Dave always says this tongue in cheek. I think it's funny. He says, even if I'm half wrong, you're still doing really a lot better than if you do nothing, right?
Exactly.
So I like that. So say he only gets 6%.
Yeah.
It's still better than 0%, right?
And it's still better than the 0.12 or whatever it is in a savings account. Yeah. So next, if you're in baby steps 1 through 3, you're going to focus all your energy there. You're still going to be working on that. Remember, you don't invest until you get to baby step 4. So if you are currently investing, but you're in baby steps 1 through 3, pause those investments. As hard as that sounds, just think about it though. The money's still going to be in those accounts doing work for you. The compound interest is still going to be working, but pause those accounts. It's hard to do it, but pause the investment until you have the money, because technically you don't have the money right now. You're in debt if you're still in baby step 2. And if you're in 3, you don't want to go back into the debt you just got out of. Make sure you have that emergency fund set. So don't spend the money on retirement until you are out of debt completely. And then
everything except for the mortgage.
Everything except for the mortgage, exactly. So we're going to work on that during baby step 6. So, and then next, if you're in baby steps 4 through 7, well, that's the time to get with the SmartVestor Pro and then start investing. There are, I mean, it's been a while since I did it, but there are at least 2 of them over the hill in Medford.
And one here.
Is there one here now? I haven't put in the information, so I haven't looked. So there's one here in town, 2 over the hill. It's definitely, you put in your information and they contact you. So it's one of those things that they will reach out to you. There'll be at least, I believe, 5 different companies that'll reach out to you and interview them. You are hiring them to do a job. They're going to be, think of it this way, they're an employee making you money. So interview them, have questions for them. Don't just sign up with the first one you talk to. So that's definitely something for you. You are hiring them. And next, we're going to keep tracking your transactions. Make sure that you're up to date on your budget. We just started a new calendar month. We want to make sure that we're doing this budget thing. This budget thing's hard for the first 3 months. I mean, it gets easier, I promise. But this first 3 months are going to be really hard until you figure this out. And it's a learning curve. So make sure you're still tracking everything on your budgets.
And we're just so proud of each one of you. This is just a blast. It's so much fun. I hope tonight is encouraging, even if you're not in baby step 4. This is something that you're aiming at. So holistically, we want you to have all that information. And so don't let it discourage you if it's going to take you some time to get to baby step 4, because we got to have the info. And you're going to be there before you know it, because we're staying gazelle intense. And so I just want you to think about this as we get ready to close. Can you imagine what it would feel like to not have any debt, including your mortgage? What would happen if your house was completely paid for and all the income that's coming in, you're able to just use it for whatever's on your heart to do? So in the next lesson, we're going to learn everything that we need to know about buying and selling real estate, specifically homes, which is going to apply to most people in here at some level, some realm. He does talk a little, I believe he talks a little bit about renting, stuff like that, because this is a big part of our monthly budget and, of course, a big part of our financial plan. So you don't want to miss next week. Even if you feel like you're not in the step, you need the information. So we appreciate that you are attending those. So thank you so much for being willing to dig through this with us. And so I'm going to pray for us. I just pray that God would fill you with hope tonight, and that as you go home, that you would have dreams of the way God can use you in the future because of the stewardship. Because remember, it's all His to begin with. So Lord, I thank you so much for tonight. I thank you that at Refuge City Church, and for those that are watching around, Lord, that you are providing a resource for us so that this whole concept of our life, it affects our marriages, it affects our relationships with our kids, it affects the way we look at the world. Lord, you're giving us a biblical lens through which to look in some practical, just everyday wisdom, so that, Lord, this area doesn't have to have huge teeth and hurt us in ways that tears families apart, all that. Lord, I thank you that you're tearing all those strongholds down. So I pray tonight, as your people go, that they would be encouraged, Lord, even if they're not on this step, that they would be filled with hope and with direction. And God, I just pray this week would be incredible. Lord, I pray that this weekend, as we're out parking cars and doing the things that we can do as a church family, that, Lord, you would keep us safe, that you'd keep us motivated, you'd keep us focused on you. And Lord, may we tell everybody we know about the love of Jesus and how people can come to know you. We love you so much, Jesus, in your precious name. Amen.